I'm sure most of you have heard by now about the horrific incident that occurred in D.C. just yesterday. 2 National Guardsmen were ambushed, shot. We have details on how it all went down. And we're learning that one of the individuals, at least one of the individuals, is actually local to us here at Timcast. So we are shocked, saddened, angered. And there's a lot to this story that goes to the failings of the previous administration and how we've gotten to this point. So for those that didn't see the story, I mean, this is the breaking news yesterday. Reportedly, this is, and I'm sure this is all subject to change. We'll get more updates on exactly how everything went down. But a man ambushed two guardsmen, a female and a male, and according to these reports that I've seen, shot the female, took her gun, or had a revolver. There's been conflicting reporting, and then fired upon another guardsman and was ultimately shot a couple times before being subdued. Reports are the individual is not cooperating, but the latest update is that this individual had worked with the U.S. government, reportedly came into this country on a special program from the Biden administration and overstayed his visa. And now here we are. The response from many Democrats has been quite abhorrent, with them saying things like, if they weren't on patrol, they wouldn't have been shot. And there have been numerous liberal you know what, I'm gonna pull these up. I didn't want to drag anybody on such, but we've got to talk about this, my friends. Numerous instances of, you know what, I don't want to pull up anything graphic, in fact, so I'm not going to slide I'm not going to bring the slide over just now. But I want to show you some of the sentiment that we have been hearing, and I think it's important because it plays to this narrative they have about blaming the victim that we've seen quite a bit. This is Ed Krasenstein. If they weren't on duty there, raking leaves and standing in front of federal buildings for no good reason, this wouldn't have happened. It was Trump's stupid political stunt teamed with another lunatic killer that led to this. I have a question for Ed. Why were they shot? Why were they shot? This lunatic killer wouldn't have shot anybody else? Wouldn't have gone somewhere else and done it? No, I think the point is we shouldn't have to worry about National Guard walking down the street. The reason they're out there is because of lunatic killers. There was a shooting at a Christmas tree lighting in Chicago. A young woman was drenched in gasoline and then immolated. There is a reason why federal law enforcement is being dispatched. Now, along with this story, there is another shocking element, and that is the question of how this happens and the argument from many on the right that it is the left. Liberals, Democrats particularly, have been fomenting civil war. I know. Now, I'm somewhat reluctant is a better word to use, to say civil war as it could be foreign actors that are doing this. I want to pull in another one of these tweets here. Jane Meyer saying, this is so tragic, so unnecessary. These poor guardsmen should never have been deployed. I live in D.C. and watched as they had virtually nothing to do but pick up trash. It was for political show, and what a cost. They should have been deployed, and this murderer proves it. Now, they shouldn't have been shot. They shouldn't have been targeted. This killer shouldn't have been allowed in the country. But the fact remains, deploying the National Guard was because of the violent crime, because of the extremism. They're blaming the victims, essentially. Maybe they shouldn't have worn that miniskirt and they wouldn't have been raped, huh? National Guard patrolling our streets is what National Guard do. And these brave men and women should not have been in harm's way patrolling the streets to make us feel safe. This lunatic, this terrorist, should not be excused in any way. Now, we have this from, I'm going to pull this in from the Post Millennial. If it loads, go ad-free. Shooting of National Guard troops was targeted. Suspect in custody not cooperating. Now, I'm sure many of you have heard a lot of these details, so here's the latest. The Afghan national accused of shooting 2 National Guard members blocks from the White House worked with various U.S. government entities, including the CIA, as a member of a partner force in Afghanistan, Fox News Digital has learned. Ramanullah Lakanwal, 29, entered the U.S. on the heels of the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021 under the Biden administration. Lakanwal arrived in the U.S. a month later under Operation Allies Welcome. Intelligence sources told Fox News Digital that Lakanwal had a prior relationship with various entities in the U.S. government. In the wake of the disastrous Biden withdrawal from Afghanistan, the Biden admin justified bringing the alleged shooter to the U.S. in September of 2021 due to his prior work with the U.S. government, including CIA, as a member of a partner force in Kandahar, which ended shortly following the Kadak evacuation. John Ratcliffe told Fox News Digital. The individual and so many others should never have been allowed to come here. Now, we do have major updates. They are suspending applications from Afghanistan right now. And Pete Hegseth, I believe it was Hegseth, but it was announced 500 more National Guard will surge into D.C. And clearly we need it. Clearly, this is, yes, from Pete Hegseth. Make sure you guys are following at Timcast News on X for all the latest updates. Shout out to Josh, getting the news feeds up, making sure you guys know what's going on in these breaking stories. Now, there is a bit more to this story. I want to give you guys the basic breakdown. I know this is horrifying. It's graphic, especially on this very important holiday. I've heard people recently saying Thanksgiving's not a holiday. Don't say that because it's not religious. Sure. It's a time we spend with our families. And you may be saying, Tim, what are you doing on this Thanksgiving? We do our Thanksgivings on the weekends. So we do 2. And we do this because it's easier for everybody. And, I don't know what we're going to do about it. It's not so easy to travel and security and all of these things. But we did have our Thanksgiving on the weekend. I know. It's not Thursday, but Mike Davis reports from a law enforcement source. Afghan national born in 96, armed with a revolver, ambushed a female guardsman, shooting her in the head. And a male guardsman shot multiple times. They never saw it coming. Both guardsmen were armed. A major in the National Guard who was unarmed and doing his spot checks of the guardsmen was in the block, heard the shots and turned to see the shooter who spotted him. He took cover behind a truck. The suspect came for the major, who pulled out his pocket knife and bravely took on the suspect who was reloading his revolver. The major began stabbing the suspect in the head. Another guardsman in the area who was armed then drew his pistol and shot the suspect twice, once in the leg, once in the buttocks. The major stated that when the suspect began shooting, he heard him shout, Allahu Akbar. I just briefed, redacted. Now you know too. There's more. We're trying to confirm that the suspect, an Afghan national, was an interpreter brought over by Biden because he has a Department of Defense record. Again, we're trying to confirm. The suspect has a home address in Washington state, and now appears that this is confirmed. We have this report from ABC 7 News. Who were the National Guard members injured in a shooting in Northwest D.C.? This was 2 blocks, just about 2 blocks from the White House. And this is a public post from Muscle Man High School, which is Eastern Panhandle of West Virginia. Thoughts, prayers, and condolences. Maybe condolences is the right word, but prayers. My understanding is that these guardsmen are still alive and in critical condition. And this is brutal, man. This is rough for me because I see this picture. I know exactly where this brave young man is standing. This is it appears to be the Air Guard at Martinsburg Regional Airport. They have an amazing restaurant, and it is an honor and a privilege that I get. Sometimes we go to the restaurant at that. It's an amazing restaurant at the airport, and you look out that window and you see the West Virginia Air Guard. You can see these amazing jets and the brave men and women who have signed up to do a job that that I don't do. I get to come into this restaurant in Martinsburg, and they got great sausage. I tell you this, it's real farm sausage. And when you go there, sometimes you'll see these brave men and women sitting there eating with their families, and it's an amazing experience. And it is just a small town, little airfield restaurant, but you look out that window and you can see what makes America great right there. What makes America great is young men like this guy right here. Muscle Man High School. I'll see if I can pull up this image again, which is it's local to us. We're in the eastern panhandle of West Virginia, and Muscle Man, I believe it's Inwood. They say our Applemen community is deeply saddened to learn that Muscle Man High School alumnus Andrew Wolf was one of the National Guardsmen injured in the shooting in D.C. today. Andrew is currently in critical condition and undergoing surgery. Please keep Andrew, his family, and those affected in your thoughts. We will share updates as we receive them. Once an Appleman, always an Appleman. It is crazy for this stuff to land so close to home. You know, because so much of what I see every day is just some faraway place. But of course, as most of you know, we're about an hour and a half from Washington, D.C. Hour and a half, depending on which highway you take and if there's traffic. So when the reason we chose this area is for a variety of reasons. We are political people here at Timcast. And I've always been passionate about, it's not about electoral politics. It's about the political space. It's about what makes our lives the way they are, be it good or bad. And when we were in the Jersey area, we wanted to get out. It's for a variety of reasons you can probably understand, but it really came down to the riders crossed the bridge from Philly, and we were about 15, 20 minutes from Philadelphia on the Jersey side, and I loved the area. You had good moderate Southern Jersey folk, Jeff Van Drew switching parties. Not that the Republicans are perfect, but it was a brave thing to do. When the riots crossed over, I said, we need to get out of here. And we actually looked at some faraway locations. We looked at Maine. Small town, middle of nowhere, safe, hard to get to, and kind of removed. And, you know, when we were talking, it was a limited team back then. It was very small. But in the conversations that we were having with friends, family, and everybody, it was, you know, we need to be somewhere close enough. And of course, my friend recommended the area, the airport, about an hour 15 from where we currently are. And so, you know, if we went to New York, I was like, what if we move up, you know, like PA, we're near like the New York airport. It's like still an hour drive from the airport. And I'm like, okay, at least now you're going fast, right? And so we find ourselves in the eastern panhandle of West Virginia, a great area with great people, with obviously amazing, brave young men like this Andrew Wolf and those who also serve in the National Guard here. You've got one of the best reps in Congress, Rep. Riley Moore. He was state treasurer, and it's amazing to see him. He's now in Congress, and he represents us here. This is a great area. The scenery, the environment, everything is so amazing, and it's terrifying every day. I tell you this. This happened only a couple blocks from the White House. Each and every one of us, you know, I was out. You know, I try to be careful explaining exactly where I go for security reasons. But I was out and grabbing some food, handful of people, and, you know, everybody around here, immediately there was shock. Because this isn't just some news story that happened in Seattle. This is not the Chaz Chop. This is not protests in front of a federal facility. I mean, aside from the fact that this is a gruesome and shocking moment for everybody out here, I could see the looks in their faces. And it is scary that it is landing so close to home. Like many of you with a lot of these stories, I know you've experienced this as well. Some of you who live in these areas that have been seeing riots, violence, shootings, etc. I know you all understand. And so, you know, it's insane to me. I can't even. I'll just say it. You know, I know there's a lot of people out there, and you read stories like this, and it's just some faraway place. But for us here, especially at Timcast, these are our next door neighbors. I can understand, right? These things that go on in D.C., these protests, these riots. It's D.C., you know. But an act of terror like this, targeting our National Guard, is terrifying. Is very, very terrifying. I don't know what let me tell you, my friends. Bravery, courage. It doesn't mean you're without fear. It means that despite what makes you afraid, you stand firm, you stand tall. And that's what these guys and these men and women, they do every single day. And nobody thought something like this was going to happen. And the question is who's to blame? Well, my friends, there's a lot going on in the world. Bringing in unvetted Afghan nationals, it's not even about Afghan nationals. We were warned. I sat down with Secretary Num earlier this year for an interview, and we had discussed that terrorists were crossing the southern border. Terrorists, it's a broad term these days, what with Antifa and all that. But this was Islamic foreigners. They're a specific breed of terroristic ideology. And we know that there are people that we might consider terrorists, like Tren de Aragua, these groups that will come. And what I mean by terrorists is in the literal sense, engage in violence for political purposes. These narco gangs and these cartels murder people to send a message, not to screw with them. They to invoke terror. And we know they're crossing the border. But the scary thought, which seemed like fear-mongering that many of us millennials are all so used to from the Bush era. The terrorists are coming to get you, right? That you've got Iranians, Afghanis, Iraqis. They're coming across that southern border, and they're going to get you. And this was a question that I had. I said, we heard all of this back in the 2000s under the Bush administration, that, the terrorists, this and... but this time, we had real data to back it up, that the southern border was porous, that the Biden administration was allowing basically anyone to come in. And we discovered people on the terror watch list were being brought in. Now, in this instance, in D.C., this terror attack, it was not a person who was across the southern border, but it was, my understanding, an illegal immigrant, someone who came in on a visa, overstayed that visa. I'm not entirely sure. This individual was brought in from Afghanistan, and this was the fear that we had, that these people hate us. I'm not saying each and every one of them. There are some good people who served American interests. This guy was not one of them. Though terrifying as it is, he likely got access because he had worked with the U.S. and then betrayed us. There are people who despise us, who hate us, and would do horrific things to our neighbors, to our brothers, to our sisters, to our servicemen and women. So what do? We can't live like this, man. Part of me, I read this news every day, and I try to be careful, because is the world just as bad, or is it social media amplifying everything? And I think it's a little bit of both. The truth is, we watched a young woman get immolated in Chicago. I'm sorry, we saw the story and the snippets from the surveillance footage of this young woman being immolated in Chicago. And it just seems like everything's going insane. These attacks are horrific. We get this a week or so later. I mean, I believe it's been a couple weeks since the immolation, but the story broke. And here we are now. We live in this society where we're told we have to accept this. I think it's time for change. I think it's time for law and order. And I do not respect this argument that all authority is bad. There is a degree of authoritarian that is totally fine. And I am not talking about totalitarianism. There is a spectrum. This idea that we are going to release people from jails and give the criminals the benefit of the doubt needs to stop. This man who attacked this young woman, 72 arrests. And they say, the mayor of Chicago says, we can't incarcerate our way out of violent crime. You literally can. If this man was kept locked up, seemingly what he wants, this young woman would be safe. Now, as for the terrorists, I don't have a good answer other than people who don't share our worldview in the United States they pose a risk. If we keep bringing in people who hate us, more of these attacks are inevitable. Now, I am not saying a moratorium on all immigration. Perhaps for a short amount of time, if there's a compromise to be made. I'm saying maybe certain countries we put a pause on. Maybe we say immigration needs to be better vetted. Maybe there needs to be a better system in place. I don't have the answers for you, my friends. I don't. But I do have another segment coming up for you, and I believe I just have the one more. It is Thanksgiving, and you shouldn't be sitting here listening to me blather on. You should be with your friends and your family, having a good time, laughing. I know that you guys have some liberal aunts and uncles that you're going to be debating with. But there is an important story that I'm going to bring up in the next segment coming up, should be at noon. And that is, my friends, you ask why this is happening, and I think it's fair to say that there is an effort at a civil war in this country. It may be that foreign actors are trying to make it happen, but it also is simple. Democrats have been advocating for it. It's just the reality. Democrats have been calling on the military to defy orders, accusing them of engaging in illegal activities, and claiming that they're going to shoot Americans. I'm going to wrap this up here. Sorry to ruin your holiday with these dark stories, but thank you for paying attention to what's going on in this world. It's very important. Smash the like button, share the show, stay tuned. We got more coming up for you, and I'll see you all in the next segment.